Who's ready for a nice, lovely patch notes reading? I know I am. This is the patch 1.11 notes, okay? Patch 1.11, in which War Chefs is now a 0/3, and Lee Sin costs 2 mana. 2 mana, all right? I haven't seen these yet, okay? We're just gonna go ahead and dive right in. I have no idea what to expect. Aurelian Sol. Level up on round end when your allies have 25 total power. So it's a little bit harder to level up. This is overall probably a nice simple change. I don't have anything against this. Pretty simple change. Woo! Radiant Guardian nerf. Here we go. Things are heating up. Woo! Holy shit. This is huge. So Radiant Guardian is officially a 4/5. This is actually an absolutely huge change. Radiant Guardian is currently right now paving the environment on ladder. Because of course this card comes down as a aggro gets completely fucked card. Suddenly, this is just an aggro gets almost completely fucked card. Suddenly, this is just like an aggro is fairly fucked card. But for the most part, this is a really good change because, of course, Radiant Guardian, the way this card works is it usually got to attack like literally like 3 different times because it went to combat twice because of its tough, and then usually its attack stat line would matter because you'd have like single combat or concerted strike. There's literally like so many different ways this one point will matter in almost every game. I'm going to talk later about like the implications of this change, but this actually has really major ladder implications. Inspiring Mentor switches a okay, so this is kind of like trying to be more of an aggro card. That's quite interesting. You can definitely set up like, I can imagine trying to actually set up into Zed. I do like this change. I'll need to think more about it. Inspiring Mentor was a card that really didn't make too much sense in the meta. Thinking about it as an aggro card, I guess I could see fitting it into some decks. It feels really hard to actually build Ionia to be like a properly aggro region though. Pix is going to 2. No. Jack the Winner is going down to 5 health. So it's a 5 mana 5/5. Makes perfect sense. It was kind of nuts at 6. I think this is pretty fair. It looks like Petty Officer is coming down to 1 health as well. I like this. Bilgewater was kind of like weirdly positioned. Like from design, they are not supposed to be like big bulky beef. Not like... They kind of just got there somewhere along the way. Petty Officer got an extra point of health. Jack the Winner was a 5/6. Gangplank was only seeing use as just like a beefy champion. It was kind of like weird flavor wise, and it gave them definitely too good of an approach towards like aggro or tempo style decks. I like to see those changes. I'm just gonna like briefly go through. Oh yeah, I'm just gonna briefly go through these, and then I'll kind of like summarize because there's a lot to get into in terms of like how we're going to expect the meta to be changing. That I'll have to like look at them all to see. So Bastion is getting a no. What? This is not the round anymore. This is permanent spell shield. +1/+1 and spell shield that doesn't end. It needs to get popped. That's a little crazy. I'm gonna have some fun with this one. Holy shit. Cosmic Inspiration. This card was actually, yeah, this card was really crazy. It was dictating so many games just because of like the super slow grindy meta. Like getting this card in the reasonable early game was absolutely insane. Now it no longer refills your spell mana. So it instead of being a 4 mana card, it's a 7 mana card, which is a lot more fair. You're giving up a lot of tempo to play this. It makes a lot more sense. I think for the most part, this will become like a situational choice that you can only pick in those like super slow games. Grandfather Rumul, here's the buff that we all expected. Now it's grant 2 allies plus 4 HP. For the most part, I don't actually wow. It's still so slow. Man, that's actually crazy. You know, you look at that change and you're like, is this the change that Grandfather Rumul needed? But in a really slow meta, you could actually see this card being nuts. Hush. Create a fleeting Hush in hand that costs 1 more. So for the most part, the question is like, how much is this going to change? It's definitely a good start. I think that it's really rare that you were going on like these like triple hush binges. The double hush will be a little bit harder to execute. It should still be hitting pretty much as many decks in as many spots. I think that this is like... this card is still going to see a good amount of play. Mountain Goat goes to 2 health. 2 mana 3/2. That's a pretty big one. Read the text. What, this? Third paragraph. For that reason, we decided to ready another change for the next patch, where we'll remove Hush's repeatable aspects entirely and reduce its cost. This change should focus on Hush on its core instead of function and generally reduce frustration playing against it. We're incorporating our learnings into design work for future Targon cards. Well, that's good to know. So yeah, basically they're acknowledging that this isn't really like a super great change, and they're going to work with something like better long term. Yeah. Reduce its cost. So basically they're just going to make it a side grade to Purify. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, seems good. Mountain Goat. This is a general usability buff aimed at letting Mountain Goat provide more inconsistent asset to gems, better potential target for buff heavy decks. So this is actually a really big change. I think Mountain Goat is suddenly a card that is looking pretty great. I could see using it in a lot of like Lee Sin style decks. Mountain Goat is viable for sure. Yeah, like this 1 health right now. 1 health is such a crazy downside. There's cards like Make It Rain that are just running rampant everywhere. Like, there's so many cards that have 1 health that just can't work. Like, Shadow Isles has so many ways of dealing 1 damage. 1 health is just almost a death sentence. Like, when you look at Jaw Hunters is an absolutely insane card that doesn't work because it has 1 health, right? So when you take a card like Mountain Goat and give it a 2nd point of health, suddenly it's an actual card. That's a really, really big deal. Single player lab. Whoa. First ever single player lab. Leaderboards. Oh, okay. 2 leaderboards are added to the play screen. Master's leaderboard shows you who's on top of ranked ladder on his shard and who's on the rise. Friends leaderboard. Okay. I might do some ladder climbing. I'm still not a fan of the current MMR system. I think it incentivizes a lot of like degenerate methods for climbing, but I mean everyone already knows about that. 2 in-game leaderboards that are intended Expedition Architect, language support, Thai, miscellaneous, match history available. Thai sounds good. Thai sounds good. We could have some Thai. I haven't had Thai in a while. Okay, so overall, let's talk about the larger implications of the patch, right? So we've got aggro getting effectively buffed, sort of, in the form of like Radiant Guardian coming down a bit. Radiant Guardian was like a really big anti-aggro tool, and then we're seeing like the actual bilge implementations of aggro getting nerfed. So you know they're trying to make aggro viable while making it more diverse, right? They're taking the bilge down a notch. Petty Officer change is absolutely huge. This card again, Petty Officer has been like literally meta defining for months, and now that it's got 1 health, suddenly you can look at this card as like a not necessarily super auto include. I do like the change they're making to Jack the Winner. Jack overall ended up being a little too strong. There will be some degenerate things with this, but that's going to be more niche. We'll have to like work on different combos with that. I think this has much bigger tournament implications than ladder implications. I can almost guarantee you that in the next tournament lineup I bring, it's going to involve Bastion. Picks an Inspiring Mentor. God, I mean, we can skip that, right? So for the most part, what are we gonna see as like as the aggro defining part of meta, right? Because right now ladder is full of aggro, or at least the NA ladder is. We're seeing it all over with currently we're seeing it with Bilgewater. Like Bilge Nox is just like the refined version of aggro. I think that the Radiant Guardian change will change a lot. I think that suddenly aggro strategies that run less over the top and more board centric, like for example MF Scouts, or you know, I mean, if you want to call MF Lucian, is like you might call it a slightly different deck, even though it's just like running 2 cards. I think that actually might see slightly more play now that Bilgewater is down a bit, now that Radiant Guardian is down a bit. For the most part, I don't know. The ladder is just so dictated by how good aggro strategies are in a whole and how aggro strategies will actually perform, right? Like, for example, until this last change of Hush, until they change it one more time, we're probably still not going to see a lot of like older strategies like viability. If they end up changing Hush in this way, then suddenly like the best form of aggro will probably go back to like Shadow Isles aggro with viability on top, stuff like that. Lee has to become tier 1 now. I think Lee is very, very good. It will come down to exactly the best build of it though. I mean, none of these new cards really support Lee. It's just like aggro coming down a little bit. It's just like Bastion. Yeah, I mean, you can use Bastion on Lee. I don't know. I don't think I'd say necessarily... It would have to be a refined version. I don't like most versions of Lee Sin that are running around a ladder. But yeah, no, a refined version of Lee Sin should be tier 1. I think that's definitely set in stone. The Celestial decks do definitely get a lot worse off of both Cosmic Inspiration as well as like the Aurelian Soul change. And it's not like the Hush change changes literally nothing. For the most part, I don't know if Lee Sin decks would actually use Mountain Goat. They would at least try swapping it in. We'll see. We'll see. Burst Spell Shield, that's not permanent, is huge. Wait, you mean that is permanent? Yeah, it is huge. Absolutely. I don't think these changes are going to really matter too much. I think the biggest changes for the overall meta are going to be Radiant Guardian as well as probably like some of the Bilgewater changes, like Radiant Guardian, Petty Officer, and Jack the Winner. Whereas like the Targon changes are big, but not as big as those, right? So much of the meta is dictated by this like cat and mouse of aggro versus, honestly, Radiant Guardian. I mean, there's a couple anti-aggro, just like I'm gonna win the game buttons. Radiant Guardian is the biggest one. Petty Officer will be cut from some Bilgewater decks. I think so, absolutely. I mean, I'll think about cutting it from some Bilgewater decks now. It's still a very good card, but it's no longer like 100% auto include. So Lee Sin's gonna be very good. I'm gonna do like a big meta update. Let me go ahead and check where we're currently at on the site. Some of these I'm gonna need to change. Lee Sin will definitely be tier 1, but I do want to make sure I have like a correct version. I'll have to rebuild some of these. I think for the most part, the best forms of like Bilgewater Noxus are going to be, you know, these versions of like slower decks like Twisted Fate, Gangplank. I think that I'm working on a Twisted Fate Lee Sin deck with Kuvira that is actually probably going to be very good as well. Sorry, not Twisted Fate Lee Sin, Twisted Fate Targon. Why did I say Twisted Fate Lee Sin? I meant to say Twisted Fate instead of Lee Sin. That's also going to be pretty good. But yeah, I think I'm gonna work on just doing like a big meta update that's going to be encompassing of all these changes that we're seeing. And I'll have to see how good Mountain Goat is. For the most part, none of these are like super crazy, right? Like Radiant Guardian is still going to be quite good. I don't really like Aurelian Soul that much as a card right now. To be honest, I think this is probably a bigger change than some people are giving it credit for. Like Aurelian Soul, I think is a pretty counterable card. I'm not really a fan of this card from a competitive standpoint anyway. I think it's mostly like a pub stompy kind of card. And the harder level up is actually going to set it back further than most people think. Imagine running Giddy Sparkeologist while Bastion exists. Yeah, honestly, I was actually running Giddy Sparkeologist. I was planning on bringing it to the next tournament. That was going to be a secret. I was constructing a lineup with Giddy Sparkeologist. I think it would actually be pretty good. But now I'm just looking at the new Bastion and I mean, this is just way better. ASOL is just bad now, IMO. I agree, Marcus. I actually think that this ASOL nerf is huge. The longer I'm looking at it, the more this will really limit ASOL's ability to, you know, just carry decks like that. I don't think this is a great card, which is fine. I think this card has been overrated in its entire existence for sure. It never once felt scary against my lineup. Yeah, that's it for the most part. I think it'll be very interesting if the Inspiring Mentor change ends up blowing us all away. Don't see huge expectations there. What do you guys think? Do you guys think there's anything I'm missing out on? Do you guys think Grandfather Rumul's suddenly low-key all of a sudden? This is actually kind of funny. I can imagine this as like I mean, it's kind of an insane value card. And a lot of these games are going late enough that like this turn 8 anti mid-range card, you know? I don't know. That is kind of funny. I mean, Bastion is the craziest change ever, right? Like, isn't this card just completely unfair now? I don't know, man. I think they fucked up. I think Bastion is just really stupid. I think they really fucked up. Like, it's gonna be fun for like a couple of days. I don't know, dude. This new Bastion seems really fucking dumb. Like when I looked at that, I was just like, what the fuck? like what? Like what? Why? Why? Bastion Zed? I'll just run Bastion Zed. You guys remember standalone Zed? I'll just run Bastion Zed. You guys haven't seen shit. You think you've seen fucking degenerate metas? You guys don't know. You guys haven't seen anything. You don't know the face of degeneracy. Bastion is so dumb. This is actually the stupidest shit. Like, this is so insane. This is so stupid. Why would they do this? Bastion elusives, here we go. I'm going to enjoy it. Like, I'll have fun with this.